Welcome to the Women in Wealth podcast, brought to you by Regina McCann-Hess, a certified financial planner with over 2 decades of experience. This show is for professional women who want guidance in working towards their retirement vision in learning, building, planning, striving for your dreams, and putting the work in now so that you can pursue your financial independence. Hello, I'm Regina McCann-Hess, president of Forge Wealth Management, and welcome to our Women in Wealth series. Today, we're going to talk about job search tips for our upcoming graduates from college, our young adults, even though I still call them kids, and I apologize, because one of my kids is part of that group. He's a young adult graduating from college, and a lot of them are looking for jobs. I know the past couple of years, it was pretty easy to find a job. You pretty much throw a dart. You had 3 offers, and all of them were pretty good offers. This year, it's a little bit different. Hearing that about half the kids have jobs and half do not. There's a group of kids who have tried to find jobs and have just decided to go on for their masters because of the job market for college graduates. So whatever you can do to help yourself make it a little bit easier or make you stand out from some of the other applicants, you got to do every little bit that helps. So here's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about finding that job, getting ready for that job. And obviously, even if you're not a college graduate recently or upcoming, or you don't have a kid graduating college, maybe you know somebody who is looking for a job, and some of these same things will help for them too. So as we go forward, you start everything with a strong resume. You want to make sure your formatting is right. I know the rule of thumb is to try to keep it to a 1-page resume, which is kind of easy for the kids coming out of college. And we're just going to assume every time I say kids, it means young adult because it's just stuck in there somewhere. I will try to be better. Our young adults coming out of college, it might be easier for them to keep everything on 1 page than somebody who has, say, 20, 30 years of experience. So obviously that's the easy thing. What the challenge for some of our college grads coming up would find is that they don't have a lot to put on their resume. So there you want to put anything that you did in high school, your jobs through high school, whether you interned, whether you donated your time, where you volunteered, things like that. And obviously all your stuff from college, what you did at college, what were some of the groups that you belonged to, what were some of the events that you participated in, things like that. So you want to kind of, move that on. And obviously if you did an internship or more than one internship, you absolutely want that on the resume. You may want to reach out to some of the people that you worked with on that internship, and even maybe some of the people that you worked for in high school, if you had high school jobs, and ask them if they would be willing to give you a good reference, and making sure that they're aware that you're going to use their name and number so they don't get that kind of surprise phone call. The next thing you want to do is work on your LinkedIn profile. A lot happens on LinkedIn. Again, if you're about to be a college graduate, you may not have a ton of LinkedIn contacts, but you can go build that. Start with your college friends, build each other's LinkedIn, follow them, connect with them, connect with your college professors. Yeah, all of them for the 4 years that you were there. Connect with all of them because you never know where that connection's going to come into play. Also, obviously, again, go back to high school, go back to your high school network, connect with those guys and gals because they're trying to do the same thing. So you want to, help each other build that network. Anyone who is influential in your life, connect with them. Obviously, some high school counselors and teachers and administrators who had an impact on you, connect with them as well. Anybody that you worked with at your internship, especially people who may have been a little higher up than you, that's a great person to connect with. Here's the other thing. Make sure your picture is a professional picture, not something that, you were in passing and somebody caught it as you were walking in a door or something like that. If you don't have a professional headshot, now is the time to get one. I'm not saying you have to be in a fancy black tie, but a suit jacket or a blazer with a button-down shirt and a tie may not be a bad thing because, again, this is your professional persona. This is what you're putting out there for everybody to look at. It should not be something that a friend of yours took while you were in the middle of something. And I will tell you, people who have been working and are professional, maybe in the professional world for 10 to 20 years, they make that mistake now. So learn early that that's not the type of picture that you want. You want a good headshot. And a lot of times your school will offer that. They will offer sessions where they give you headshots to help you with your, looking for a job and things like that. So that's the one thing there that I think could really help you. The next thing you want to do is get interview ready. Professional attire, like I said, that jacket, button down shirt, and a tie. I know most companies don't wear button down shirts and ties anymore, but if you're interviewing, you want to put your best foot forward. Now, you may, if it's a tech company, they're definitely, most likely, I shouldn't say definitely, but most likely they're not tie and, button down shirts. But it still looks good if you have like a polo with a blazer on. It still looks more professional than just a polo. So dress up. Men, I will say it is better for interviewing purposes if you shave for the presentation. And of course, women, we want to make sure that we're presentable as well. If you're going to be on Zoom, make sure you have professional attire on, not something that you're going to be at the gym in as well. So definitely professional attire for there. So also since we're talking about social media, LinkedIn is the place for businesses, right? And people to connect professionally. But your person who may be looking to hire you is most likely going to check out your social media, Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, all the ones that the young people use. I know the Facebook's more my generation, but you might still be on Instagram. You might still be on some of the other ones. Clean it up. Get rid of the pictures with the alcohol in them. None of that should be on there when you're looking for a job. Anything that's not like really professional looking, you may want to delete some of those pictures as well. Obviously, if you have stuff out there that's really, really bad, you may want to delete the whole social media account and then start over. So that's one thing. Let's go back to staying on social media, but like kind of going back to LinkedIn and Twitter and things like that. Like I said, LinkedIn is a very, very professional atmosphere. It's not where you should be like, oh, happy birthday to you. And oh, my little Johnny did this. This is more like, hey, I was speaking at this event and I met these people. It was great, things like that. But you can also reach out to people in LinkedIn. Like, say, if you're looking at applying for a job, reach out to some of those companies. They have a lot of times a company LinkedIn profile where, in addition to the website, you can go into their LinkedIn profile and learn a lot about them and what they're doing, and maybe even, connect with some of the people there. Every little bit is going to help. The other thing is to search for industry groups or forums. Like, so if you're a financial degree, you look for a finance group or a forum, you can, maybe get involved in that. When you are very involved with LinkedIn, sometimes people will reach out to you for job opportunities, or maybe they're posting that they have job opportunities. And then you can message them like, hey, I'd love to learn more about that. Would you have time for a 5-minute phone call? Or can I send you my resume? Things like that. So LinkedIn can really be a helpful spot here. I think Twitter potentially could be, if you know Twitter and are comfortable using that. That could also be a good place to look at the companies, because the companies have a profile there. So those are two places that you can look at. Obviously, you look at the websites too. You're not just, looking at one place. So sometimes the information's same, sometimes it's a little bit different, depends on what they're targeting for their online profiles. So you may get like a little bit more variety, but also a little bit more depth in the different social media platforms. So of course, we want to make sure that your information out there is clean cut. We want to make sure your photos are taken down that have any kind of alcohol or anything that doesn't look too professional. You want to take those photos down. You want to make sure that you are also taking posts down that are negative or very vocal, that could be misconstrued or misunderstood to help you get your job. So that's another thing that you want to do. Here's the other thing, and this is hard. Like you just went to college. Those were the hopefully the best years of your life because, college can be a great time. It's hard, but you have a lot of fun too, right? And you have an idea in your head of like, hey, I went to college and this is what I want to do and this is what I should get paid. You might want to be open to some different experiences. You might want to be open to a job that's not going to pay you exactly what you were told at college that you should be able to get with your degree, because sometimes the people at colleges haven't been out in the real world for a very long time. And even though the degree paper was very expensive to you, that specific job may pay less than what they're telling you. So be open to that. And let's just say if you think you should come out of school making $70,000 and you're offered a job for $50,000, but maybe it's closer to home and you could live at home for a year or two. No, no, don't turn it off. Don't turn it off. Just hear me out, right? Maybe you can stay at home for the first year or two. And that way you don't have to put out money for rent. So that makes up for the discrepancy of the 50 to 70,000. Plus, since you're not, well, maybe your parents will make you pay a little something, but it won't be what you would pay, at an apartment building. But that's a great time to start with that savings, right? So we talk a lot about building good habits. It's a great way to start really good habits because you're at home, you don't really have a lot of bills. So you bank a lot of that money. And also, if you have student loans, it's a great time to like put a lot of money towards those student loans to get those numbers down. So don't like turn something away just because the number isn't exactly what you thought it should be, or the exact job isn't what you thought it was going to be, or the title isn't what you want. These are your starting points. This is how you're getting in the door, and you get that basic experience. And then, then you can springboard either within the company, as you get your experience, you can use that to springboard to better jobs, better roles, more like what you thought you would be doing. But you got to get the experience at some point, and this could be a way for you to get that experience, even though it's not exactly what you wanted to do. I know that's kind of a harsh reality, but it lets you get the job, it lets you get experience, and that's really what you need. Because sometimes when you're coming out of college, and I was the same way, I didn't even know what I didn't know. Like, it's all in college, it's a lot of like, okay, well, it's theoretical, but now you got to like work in the real world, and it's different, and the things you need to know are different, and you need to build those skills so that you can use the education that you learned to help build your career and get you into the area that you want to be. So be open to it. I know I'm like sounding like an old granny, I guess, but if it helps you get the job, then that's okay. You can call me a granny. That's okay. I kind of talked about reaching out on LinkedIn to your network, linking up and connecting with your high school friends and teachers and administrators, and same thing with college friends and professors and things like that. But here's the other thing. You might want to reach out to some people who like work in your industry. When I'm saying connecting to your high school and college friends, maybe they graduated before you. They're already working. They may know their company is hiring. So reach out to some of your friends who are already working and say, hey, do you know if your company is hiring? I have this degree in blah, blah, blah. Do you know if your company is hiring? If they're not, do you know anybody else who is hiring? Because we all hear, like, if we're networking amongst ourselves, then we know that, Joe's show down the street, they are looking for somebody to come in on an entry level to build out their workforce, or to build out their team. So eyes on the street, that kind of thing. The other thing is go to the alumni network events. Like, if your high school has an alumni event, go to it. If your college has alumni events, go to it. Make sure that if they have local events, if your college is, many states away, they may have local groups that you can join, and just go to as many as the networking group events that you can do. So you just want to do that. You want to cast a wide net. You want to be as, involved as you can. Another thing that you can do is find a mentor. Sorry, I can't even say the word, right? A mentor. So It might be somebody who that you have looked up to for many years. They're already in their career for a couple years. You can just say, hey, would you mind talking to me? Can I take you out for a cup of coffee? What advice would you give me if you were starting over? What advice could you give me? What kind of other job boards should I look at? Things like that. Having a mentor is really, really important. If you can reach out and find somebody that you respect, that you like, and you want to emulate, that's the best mentor. And they benefit from it too, because they're like excited to give you the information that they've learned along the way. And they may be really willing to help you as much as they can. So it could be a win-win situation. The other thing that you can do is volunteer. You can add another internship. I know, you're like, oh, but I'm graduating. Why would I do an internship? An internship is a job interview. That's what I've told my kids. Every time you have an internship, that's a job interview. So, usually the internships pay you something, so that's good. And I've told my kids don't take internships that don't pay, because here's my thought on that. If they're not paying you anything, then there's no skin in the game for them. They can just dump you in a chair and be like, oh, they just want something on their resume, and doesn't matter what they do or don't do, doesn't matter to me because we're not paying them anything. But if they're paying you something, they're going to want some work product out of you, and they're going to take a little bit more interest in you and get you a little bit more involved. And that's your opportunity to be as involved as possible and to make friends and influence people, right? And possibly have a job there out of that internship. So even if you're a senior, that might be something that you want to do. Every little bit that you can do can help. It's not like a one size fits all type of thing. So we have that. Now you're graduating, you're still looking for a job, or you're about to graduate, you're still looking for a job. What do you do in the meantime? Well, obviously you're going to have to think about your expenses. You're going to have to think about your budget. When you graduate, you may want to eliminate some unnecessary expenses. You may not be able to go out as much with your friends as you maybe did when you were in college. You may need to get a part-time job until you find the job that you want, just to have some, pocket money or spending money. And again, when you're doing that, you have to think about your expenses as, do I need it or do I want it? And at that point, you have to purchase only what you need and ignore the lure of what you want. Easier said than done, but it could also put you on a good path for the future of, okay, well, these are my needs and these are my wants, and I'm focusing on my needs. And now I'm going to go forward. As I go forward, it's going to be easier to focus on my needs versus my wants, because I've been here. And then my wants, when I get the job that I need, then I can add a little bit more to the wants. And before you do that, you need to put yourself on a budget. Now, I just did educational podcast about 2 weeks ago on budgeting. So you can listen to that about it. And I talk about, the 50-30-20 budget. You obviously want to, cash is king for you. If you're trying to find your job, cash is king, right? So when you're budgeting, you want to 50% of your cash flow is going to go to your needs, and that's your living, that's your apartment, your rent, your house, whatever it is, your utilities, things like that. All of that, the stuff that you have to have, right? And then obviously 30% would be to your wants. That's your, hey, I want to go out with the guys or the gals. I want to take a trip. I want to, buy that nice outfit, things like that. Those are wants. And then the 20% goes towards savings and paying your debt. So obviously, if you're just coming out of college, you're going to be like, okay, I need to pay those college loans now, and I need to put, as much towards them as possible. But you also still need to build your nest egg. So you still don't want to ignore the fact that, 20% of your budget has to go towards debt and saving. So some of that money still needs to go to build your little cash cushion, so that you're not 6 months, 9 months from now in a situation where you don't have the cash that you need. Here's the other thing. And I will tell you, this is the hardest thing to do. Put the credit cards away. This is not the time to charge things, because you don't have a job yet. You can't be like, oh, well, when I get the job, then I'll pay it off. Well, because guess what? You're paying 25% interest on whatever you spend on that if you can't do it. I just did. Okay, so credit cards, not not a good thing to do here, but you want to just kind of stay to a cash only policy, which will help you stay on your budget because if you don't have the cash to spend, you can't spend it. So I know also the younger generation don't ever like to touch cash. And so maybe you, instead of cash, you just allocate a certain dollar amount in your Venmo. And once you spend it, it's gone. So that's another way around that. There are ways to defer your student loans. You do have a 6-month grace period before you have to start repaying your student loans. But if you don't have a job after 6 months and your finances are kind of like a little iffy, you may be able to work with your lender to be able to defer your payments until you do have an income. So take a look at that. A couple websites that may or may not help. usajobs.gov. That's a government site aimed at recent graduates and students. You also have myskillsmyfuture.org. And that's a U.S. Department of Labor site aimed at helping young people decide which careers to choose. And then there's another website called careeronestep.org. And that's articles on resume writing and job search techniques. So those are all like really cool places to stop and visit. Again, a lot of things that you can do to help yourself. My action item is, the first thing you should do is do the LinkedIn profile, clean it up, get a good picture on there, a professional picture, and connect with as many people as you can. Okay, good luck out there. It's a tough job market right now. All right, thank you so much. Again, I'm Regina McCann-Hess, president of Forge Wealth Management. My website is forgewealth.com. Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube is Forge Wealth. And LinkedIn, I'm Regina McCann-Hess. Go make it a great day. Thank you for joining me for this episode of the Women in Wealth podcast. You can watch the founder's video I created for you to learn more about me and how I can guide you towards your financial independence at www.forgewealth.com. The information in this podcast is educational and general in nature and does not take into consideration the listener's personal circumstances. Therefore, it is not intended to be a substitute for specific individualized financial, legal, or tax advice. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a final decision. Securities are offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA, and SIPC. Investment advice offered through Private Advisor Group, a registered investment advisor. Private Advisor Group and Forge Wealth Management are separate entities from the LPL Financial. Our show guests and their companies are not affiliated with nor endorsed by LPL Financial, Private Advisor Group, or Forge Wealth Management.